Why I am anti-capitalist. Capitalism as a system not only negatively affects people both on an individual level and a societal level, but can also be held responsible for killing hundreds of thousands. To summarize my general thoughts on the matter, I believe capitalism is a system that works in favor of one very small group by giving them power and sustains this power by exploiting the workers and trapping them in a cycle of poverty. I will completely elaborate on these points during this video. The basic point of this video is to educate those who do not understand how capitalism works and how it negatively affects society as a whole, along with why it needs to be changed. Firstly, I'd like to explain a few things that will make this a bit easier to understand for those who are both new to this field and would like to gain a deeper context in terms of the issues that I will discuss, as it does tend to put things a bit more into scale. Capitalism is a system in which the means of production is privately owned by CEOs. The majority of wealth is owned by them and moves down layers until it eventually gets to the workers. Socialism and communism are alternate systems in which the means of production is collectively owned by the workers, and necessities are given to them based not on their productivity, but on existing as a human being. I will later make videos elaborating on my thoughts on revolution and Marxism. According to a study done by the Center of Equitable Growth in June 2015, the top 1% in terms of income averages 38% more than the bottom 90%, and further, the top 0.1% averages over 180 times more than the bottom 90%, and all citations will be in the description. Furthermore, there is a large racial and age divide in terms of wealth. According to a study done by Duke University, 91% of the top 1% is white, and only 0.2% is black. And connected to this, the people in the Forbes top 400 combined are bringing in more income than all around 16 million black American households. A large piece of this racial divide could be accounted for by the history of racial oppression in America. Although it does and has happened globally, I'm going to specify with America in this video, as the majority of my audience does reside in America. The basic way to describe this situation is to describe it as one group building something, and then when that group is halfway finished building, they bring in another group and force them to watch them build until the second group eventually refuses to watch and starts building for themselves. And then the first group continuously breaks down their creation and puts limitations on their building to benefit themselves. Eventually, parts of the first group begin to agree that the limitations are wrong, leading a larger percentage of the group to eventually be against the limitations and choosing to remove those. They might say that their rights are equal, but because of the disadvantage that the second group has had, while the first group was finished, the second group had just begun building. All the while, stray members of the first group would continue to break off pieces of their building. White people are represented by the first group, and all non-white people are represented by the second. The entire basis of capitalism is furthering yourself, and eventually people realized that it would be faster and easier to slow others down or exploit them. Capitalism as a system is based upon exploitation and cannot exist without this exploitation. Our goal in a capitalist society, instead of revolving around supporting other human beings and improving our society, is to get to the top. And as mentioned before, to get there, we need to exploit. More specifically, we need to exploit the workers. Capitalism as a system is based fully around exploitation of the workers, who often live in poverty. In our system, it is near impossible to advance from the working class to the upper class, the rate of which gets extremely low once we get into specific percentages, which is understandable to an extent due to the nature of probability, but the rate of this is completely ridiculous and is clearly stacked in a way that works against the working class. There is a quote which I feel fits this situation, which says, Capitalists tell people to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, and often forget that most people in this world do not even have shoes. Which I believe, and study that I have referenced and will cite in the description again, suggests is absolutely accurate, due to the fact that the vast majority of this world is living in extreme poverty. But they also do a massive amount of work. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, in 2014, the average worker did 1,677 hours of work annually in the United States, and according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the average worker would have a salary of $81,400, whilst the top 1% has an average income of $717,000, nearly 10 times that of the average worker, which does not include money passed down to them and the opportunities given to them due to their familial, national, racial, or monetary background. Capitalism not only creates exploitation, but also creates hierarchy. A capitalist society is not a democratic society. The reason for this being that democracy is based around equality and everyone having a choice in how things are run. As noted before, capitalism creates a form of hierarchy in which the few wealthy individuals have a say in things and have control, rather than every citizen having a say in things, regardless of their financial background. This is a system existing in the United States, along with many Western countries. It is a form of polyarchy. Polyarchy is a system in which the power is owned and moved around by and within a small group of people. Within a polyarchal system, power is often unearned and invalid, and is existent based most upon wealth and other surrounding factors. For more information on polyarchy, I recommend watching Noam Chomsky speaking in an interview done in 2003, for which I will put a transcript in the description. In these situations, people are often passed down power in a manner similar to monarchy. The main differences between the two is that a monarchical system openly passes down huge levels of power simply based upon family and birth owner. In contrast, America's polyarchal system does not do it so openly, and the majority of Americans do not care to actually look into the power given to and exercised by the ruling class, or the top 1%. One thing that I hear quite often is people opposing the power passed down in a monarchical system, but not the power passed down in a capitalistic system. But, for the few monarchists, my refutation to monarchy is the fact that the ruling monarch is passed down a major amount of power, even if they don't exercise it, like for example, Queen Elizabeth, who chooses to let a government and prime minister make most decisions, but she still has the final decision in these things. She still has the power to end allyships, deploy British troops, and much more. Even if she doesn't choose to make those decisions, she still can at any point with no real opposition. The people living under a monarchical system have no choice or control in who their ruling monarch is, and they often have no training or knowledge about politics. Often, people will use the profit made by the palace in arguments for monarchy, to which I refute with 2 points. Firstly being that the palace isn't even the top tourist attraction in the UK. Secondly being that money should not be a significant influence in the political system. Which brings me to my final point against capitalism and the American polyarchal system. That profit is one of the largest driving forces in politics in this system. It is at a point where governments are putting their citizens and other innocent civilians at risk, often killing them in wars that are completely unnecessary and serve only to please the ruling class. We have doctors prescribing medications to their patients that would not be the best fit, because they're being paid off by drug companies. And finally, one of the largest of which being politicians being completely paid off by corporations to not address certain issues and to vote on certain affairs that benefits their corporations rather than the people of their country. Politicians are often more concerned about getting sponsorships and power than to actually support and improve their country. Corporations are being bailed out and oil companies are being allowed to continuously destroy the planet with no repercussions because of the profit that many politicians are openly making because of them. In conclusion, there are multiple reasons why I am against capitalism as a system and feel that it needs to not only be improved but scrapped completely. Some of which being the various forms of oppression that are created by it, the hierarchy created by it, and it pushing money into politics and causing politicians to put profit before the people they are supposed to be supporting. I believe that capitalism is to blame for unnecessary wars being created to only benefit a small amount of the population, and for giving that power to that small piece of the population to be only passed down within families. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something from this video, and expect to see more videos like this in the future.